Within almost every category of watches, Seiko seems to always have an answer when it comes to a solid, entry-level mechanical option. Taking, for example, the world of dive watches and the legendary SKX, when it comes to more field-oriented watches, Seiko also has a strong presence on the affordable side with the Seiko 5 models like the 37mm SNK 800 series, as well as the 42mm SNZGs, both long being considered some of the best in the price range when it comes to automatic field watches. And just recently, Seiko unveiled the SRPG27, an updated Seiko 5 field watch with an upgraded movement that is Seiko's latest efforts in producing one of the most price competitive field watches on the market. Let's jump into it and take a closer look. All right guys, now before we jump into this video, taking a look at this new Seiko 5 field watch, a couple things. One is a new giveaway is going on, $1,600 giveaway on Baldassarre.com. So if you want to enter that, fill out the form down below. Be sure to follow all the instructions. Pick out 3 watches on Baldassarre.com up to that value amount. And if you are picked to win, you can pick out one of those 3 watches for yourself for free. In addition, since we're talking about field watches, just want to point out a couple other probably good alternatives here. First, of course, being the wide selection of Hamilton khaki field models, the Bull of the Hack. Both of those ranges we've done some in-depth reviews on, as well as the Marathon General Purpose as well. At Baldassarre.com, full authorized dealer for all the brands that we carry, quick and fast fulfillment, dedicated customer support. Also, all of the watches on the site come with a full factory warranty as well, so definitely go check those out. In the last couple of years, Seiko has been overhauling the Seiko 5 collection quite a bit, as evidenced with the now very popular Seiko 5 Sports, or also the SRPE models, affectionately known as the Dress KX, both being models that work off that SKX style architecture. And while a lot of enthusiasts especially look to Seiko as like a dive watch company, the brand also has a rich heritage when it comes to field watches dating back to the Laurel Alpinist collection, debuted in 1959, acting as the brand's first sports watch, inspiring the modern Alpinist collection, a perennial enthusiast favorite, and also playing part in Seiko's more affordable field watches, including the new variant we're going to be looking at today. And while the SNK and the SNZG watches are both held in loving esteem by Seiko's passionate fan base, collectors griped about the sizing, with the SNK being maybe a little bit too small at 37mm and the SNZG just being a bit too big at 42mm, as well as the inclusion of the bare bones 7S calibers in both of those cases. Quite frankly, there was a much needed update to many of these Seiko models, and Seiko has been diligently taking action on this in recent years, with the efforts finally making their way to their field watch line with the introduction here. A mass appealing variant equipped with fairly pleasant sizing dimensions, as well as some upgraded specifications. Starting with a conversation on where this new SRPG27 features a 39.4mm case diameter that neatly splits the difference between the aforementioned SNK series and the larger SNZG field watches Seiko 5 fans know and love. On the wrist, the watch wears pretty true to size, if anything slightly larger, offering a prominent visual presence in large part due to the large dial to bezel ratio, as well as the pronounced dome profile of the Hardlex crystal that tastefully distorts at certain viewing angles. For those in search of a sapphire upgrade, I am confident that Seiko modding community will just have some answers for this in the coming months. In terms of thickness, it is at 13.2mm, so you wouldn't call this watch relatively slim, and the height does lend a solid feel, and I think is appropriate given the tool watch positioning on display here, but it is something important to kind of keep in mind, and I think it would have been nice to see maybe a bit more of a svelte case construction for a 3-hander. Enhancing the wearing experience is the lug-to-lug at just over 48mm, ensuring that this piece will work well in a variety of wrists out there, while also demonstrating Seiko's recent proclivity towards more mass market appealing dimensions compared to decades past. Now this one really does, again, kind of split the difference there. It does lean a little bit more into those 42mm options, but still I would say wears closest to a 40mm case overall. While located in the traditional 3 o'clock position, this non-screw down crown, unsigned crown, isn't too harsh on the back of the hand, given its slim profile. Also still allows for an impressive 100 meters of water resistance. That is a major selling point for this watch in general. Now flipping the watch over, we do have an unnecessary but welcomed exhibition case back displaying the 4R36 caliber that we'll dig into a little bit later. As is the case for many more inexpensive Seiko watches, the bracelet leaves a ton to be desired. Demonstrated by the stamp clasp, folded end links, jingly links at that, and pin construction. The piece does feature 2 micro adjustment points on its sign push button clasp that also comes with a fold over lock. In this particular case, I'll show this watch on a variety of different straps, as I think with this one being 20 millimeters with its lug width, there's the potential for kind of classifying this one as a strap monster when it comes to versatility. On the subject of case finishing, this tool-oriented field watch isn't fully brushed or bead blasted as you might assume, but rather leans into more brushing on the bezel and the interior lug surfaces with polishing along the near vertical case flanks. And this is an effect that gives this utilitarian piece just a bit more refinement, contrasting in a visually interesting way with strictly business dial design. Gazing through the heavily domed Hardlex crystal, we have a dial with a general inspiration stemming, of course, from military watches of decades prior, but also keeping with the other Seiko 5 field watches preceding this model. At the dial outskirts, a simple minute track printed in white and is interrupted at the 5-minute positions by rectangular lume plots, with a larger triangular lume index at the 12. All set against a primary matte charcoal colored central dial surface. Moving inwards, hour tracking is handled with raised Arabic hour markers in a metallic silver, but without lume. And finally, just within, we have that all-important element for a field watch with the printed secondary 24-hour scale that is useful in both military contexts and also the vast majority of the world where 24-hour time is commonly observed. The hands in this instance are well finished for the price, pencil shaped and filled with lume that, along with the small markers within the minute track, glow with powerful incandescence Seiko fans have come to expect with these more affordable Seiko watches. Like many other Seikos, we have a day-date complication visible at the 3 o'clock with a white on black Spanish and English wheel for the days with Sunday in red, and a simple white on black numeric date wheel. While some will probably argue that the date clutters the dial a bit, it is frankly a commonplace component for Seiko's design language, and I think we are unlikely to see that removed in a watch of this type, definitely leaning a bit more into those SNZGs. Dial text is also carefully mitigated with a raised Seiko signature at the 12, paired with the printed 5 denoting this model's position under the Seiko 5 umbrella. At 6, the word automatic is printed in cursive script, again adding just a tiny element of refinement. But overall, this dial design presents more of a updated take on some more classically styled field watches out there and is just very Seiko, just simple as that. When looking at this compared to the Hamilton Khaki collection or other excellent affordable field watches like the Bulova Hack that I recently reviewed, it's easy to discern this as well as a Seiko. It's a bit more contemporary with its look, and when looking at the SNK 800s and the SNZG models, it's very much embedded within here. But let's move to what is actually within here with the 4R36 movement. While the 4R series of calibers from Seiko are nothing especially sexy in terms of finishing, it's important to note that the predecessors to this watch, including that aforementioned SNKs and the SNZGs, were powered by the 7S series of calibers. Movements, while considered especially reliable, lack basic modern conveniences of hacking and hand-winding functionality. Given the context, the 4R36 included here is a nice touch and improvement, offering hacking and hand winding and a stated accuracy of +45 to -35 seconds per day, though this example and the majority of Seiko calibers outperform those specs by a wide margin in my experience. In terms of visuals, the 4R36 is on full display through the exhibition caseback, but offers little in way of movement decoration, instead presenting a utilitarian overall look and feel that is in keeping with the watch as a whole. Frankly, for $275, you really aren't going to run into much in the way of movement decoration anywhere, so you can't really dig into this too much, but it's just something to consider when looking at these 4R36 movements. Now, in terms of general specifications behind these, 21,600 vibrations per hour or 3 Hertz, does feature hacking and hand winding as mentioned, and has an approximate power reserve of 41 hours. All right, so now when considering the Seiko 5 collection, the SNK 800s have been, for probably the last 5 to 10 years or so, been fan favorites. That's kind of that entry-level door when you're talking about that field watch design. Then you also, again, have those SNZGs, which I know I've been mentioning these models like crazy, but really how I look at this watch is kind of splitting the difference while also offering up some up specification. When looking at this piece in terms of what it is going for, it definitely leans in terms of dial design closer to the SNZGs, which I think for some might not be the favorite because I feel like more people are drawn to those SNK 800s. You are getting the more modified or say updated Seiko 5 type of logo, which I am personally more of a fan of. I think it looks a little bit more kind of dressed up and I would say more mature in terms of the older Seiko 5 that sometimes could look a little bit juvenile, but there is quite a bit more going on when it comes to the dials because you have that date window, also have the mixing of printing as well as those raised markers on the dial. But in terms of where this one's falling, we're talking about under $300, 100 meters of water resistance, upgraded movement, which I think is the #1 reason why to probably look at this watch, hacking and hand winding. That's gonna be a big point for people out there. And it is nice personally to see that Seiko, I think more than a lot of brands, has a pulse on where many enthusiasts are kind of going and maybe wanting or desiring, kind of working back from a lot of that work that was done in the, say, early 2000s with blowing up a lot of case sizes and trying to find something that kind of meets that happy, just middle ground for many enthusiasts out there. I think the wearability on this one is much better compared to some of the other field watches in the market. This one's pretty much in alignment with, say, something like the Hamilton Khaki Field or like the Bull the Hack watch, I would say, just throwing it out there as a general stance and idea. So I think that is going to be appealing to many people out there, but quite frankly, this is just another Seiko 5 watch that, I mean, yes, it is just another Seiko 5, but Seiko 5 in terms of the value that they're bringing are always among the best in the category. And for those that are just looking to get started in the world of field watches for the first time, maybe aren't able to save up for the Hamilton Khaki or it's just out of reach for them, or going for things like the Alpinist, this is going to be that nice starter watch if you do want something with that upgraded movement compared to those SNK 800s and those SNZGs. But all right, guys, love to see your comments down below. What do you think of these new Seiko 5 models? Love to see comments, see what you guys are thinking about these. I think they do kind of split the difference between what we've seen in the past, also kind of adapting a lot of just the idea behind these new Seiko 5s and what Seiko has been doing as of late. If you did enjoy the video, thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. Also, if you want to stay up to date with the content, definitely be following on Instagram as well. But guys, thank you again so much for watching. Be well, and I will see you all very soon.